Hi, I'm John Vucicevic. Welcome back. This is done in conjunction with the AssetProtectionTraining.com program, and what you're watching is Module 2 of the 8 biggest 401k mistakes. Similar to Module 1, how we're going to do this is with a PowerPoint presentation and my voiceover on that presentation. So we're going to get started here with mistake number 5. Thanks for coming, and I look forward to sharing this information with you. Well, okay, here we are at Module 2, and if you missed Module 1, this conglomeration of letters is pronounced VU, Cheech, Vich. I always like to get through that first so we can move on. Alright, so here we are. We're going to talk about the 8 biggest 401k mistakes and how to avoid them. And in Module 2, we're going to start with mistake number 5. Right, so we begin Module 2 with mistake number 5, rolling over after-tax dollars. Now, why on earth would you have after-tax dollars in any qualified plan? Well, some 401ks, as we learned in Mod 1, they have different rules. They allow some participants, or all participants, to invest excess money if they choose to. So you've contributed the maximum into your 401k and you have extra money and you want to invest it. So you put it into your 401k. That money is going to go in on an after-tax basis. This is usually seen in higher income earners, and the reason why they do it is so that the interest or the growth in the accounts are on a deferred basis, so the growth is not taxable. Here's the problem. The problem is the keeping the money separate. You got qualified money with non-qualified money. And the difference between the two is glaring. One goes in after tax, the other one goes in before tax. So the accounting of that is critical. If the plan custodian or the administrator of the plan or whoever's holding the proceeds don't keep a separate accounting of those two forms of assets, the end result is that after-tax money is going to get taxed twice when it comes out in the form of distribution. That would happen when you're 65 or at retirement, or whenever you guarantee it to happen at age 70 and a half. So if you roll this money over to a new plan because your employer went out of business, for instance, as you learned in Mod 1, you can put that money into the new 401k. Well, that new 401k plan administrator needs to know which money's taxable and which money came in after tax. If they don't, it is all deemed to be taxable or before tax money. And as a result, it's going to come out all taxable. So the effect is that you've been taxed twice on those funds. How do you avoid this mistake? Not doing it. Inside of asset protection training modules, there are all kinds of places to put money that is in excess contributions. So you can put that money anywhere. So just simply avoid this mistake, and just don't do it. Okay, mistake number 6 then is the beneficiary. We see all kinds of errors here, and frankly, I believe these are the ones that cause the biggest problems, because everybody's good intentions can be overridden by the wills or wants of beneficiaries. So beneficiary designations, first and foremost, you need to know that they override everything. Okay, if you created a will and you think that that's the end of the deal, you're mistaken. The beneficiary designation in your 401k or your IRA, and we'll take this even deeper, annuities, life insurance, anything that has a beneficiary designation needs to be reviewed annually. Life changes. So if your will says one thing but your beneficiary designation says something else, it's the beneficiary designation that's going to override anything that happens. Trusts as well. Divorce decrees and prenuptials. In addition, oftentimes somebody's going to want to have a non-spousal beneficiary. Well, this could be a trust. That's a non-spousal beneficiary. Once again, if the document that's sending the money to a trust doesn't specify that the beneficiary is not to be the spouse but supposed to be somebody else, the document, the 401k, is going to override that. You might want to bypass the spouse because the trust is going to take care of them and give these qualified dollars to your kids. Well, you're going to implement the kiddie tax. The IRS doesn't like generation skipping documents. In fact, they feel like they've been cheated, so the money gets taxed as if it were distributed to the original beneficiary, and then it gets taxed again to the child beneficiary. That's called the kiddie tax. And what this does ultimately is just offers much fewer options from a planning standpoint. So this can easily be fixed, easily be avoided, simply by reviewing your beneficiaries on an annual basis. All right, mistake number 7 are the advisors. This often is a very large mistake. First off, lots of folks with 401k specifically count on the employer. Frankly, the Pension Protection Act of 2006 required the employer to be this thing called a fiduciary, meaning that they have a responsibility to all plan participants to provide them with advice. However, if your employer is a plumber, that puts the onus upon somebody who is a plumber, not a financial advisor. So counting on your employer, even though the law says he's supposed to provide you, with advice, really is a mistake. They need advice just as badly as you do. And if you are the owner of the plumbing firm, understand that you have the responsibility of providing your staff and your employees or the participants in your plan with advice. Not doing so can cause you some pretty big problems. So on both sides of that fence, this is an issue that can be avoided by simply contacting or getting in contact with somebody who's trained and educated in the 401k and specifically the qualified plan marketplace. Co-workers. Well, what can I say about this? If you work in cubicles, you hear somebody talking to their spouse, or you talk to each other most likely, or you stand around the water cooler or the copy machine or outside smoking or whatever it is you do, and you ask everybody what's going on with their 401ks and what they're doing, and you tend to follow the herd. And I call this the herd mentality, just doing what the other co-workers are doing. And this is the same problem as having your employer be the advisor in your plan. Those folks need as much advice as you do, and can be very persuasive sometimes. Doing this, however, is often a very big mistake. Friends, family, and relatives. I don't think I need to say a lot more here. You got a friend or a family member that's all of a sudden in the financial business and they've become an expert in something, but it may not be in the taxation or the proper allocations or all the stuff that we've talked about through Mods 1 and Mods 2. I would caution taking advice from these folks, even though they're trusted and maybe very honorable people. The reality is this is a very complex area and requires specific advice. So seek that out and try to avoid specifically these 3. How about past performance? We addressed this a little bit in Module 1. Past performance is not indicative of future results. They say that for a reason, because past performance is not going to tell you what the future is going to hold. In fact, there are studies done that prove otherwise. So if the last fund that you picked was the best fund 10 years ago, it's likely not to be the best fund in the future. So reviewing your 401k often is important, not just picking something and making sure or hoping that the best outcome comes from that. Past performance is often a very big mistake that people make. Typically what these co-workers we talked about and what these friends and families are going to offer you from an advice standpoint, because it kind of makes sense, but from a testing perspective it is the wrong thing to do. And then unrelated advisors. Well, gosh, who's unrelated to your 401k? Your employer's related in some respects because they developed the plan, but it's your money. So the ultimate onus is upon you to make sure that you've done the right things that fit your needs, because your employer and you may have different wants and goals, different tolerances to risk and all that. Same thing with the coworkers. Unrelated advisors certainly applies to the friends and family and relatives category. Other unrelated advisors are going to be your property and casualty agent that is in the life insurance business. All right, that's an unrelated advisor. Taking advice from folks like that is a mistake. They don't have a vested interest in your plan today. They do when you move it out. For instance, when you terminate your employment for some reason, like the employer stops the plan or you change jobs, things of that nature. There's an interest in it at that point, but by then, you hopefully have growth. So unrelated advisor are all those people around you that provide you with advice that don't have an interest in the specific plan that we're talking about. Let's move on to mistake number 8 then. Mistake number 8 is working with amateurs. I underline that, working with amateurs. Refer to step number 7. Specialists do exist. There are not many, but they are out there, and you can find them simply by Googling somebody in your area or landing on places like this website that you're on, Asset Protection Training. Specialists do exist. The qualified market, be that from an IRA all the way up to an ESOP, all of those have different aspects to them and different requirements, and it requires someone who only does this kind of work. They exist. Even if you are a plan participant with a small account value, there are specialists out there that can advise you with respects to what you should do and how you should do your allocations to your 401k. So pick somebody other than everything listed in mistake number 7. There are specialists out there. This is a great venue to find one. AssetProtectionTraining.com. So that's going to end our tutorial for today. This was module 2, and we started with mistake number 5. Well, okay, at the end of module 2, we concluded our 8 biggest 401k mistakes program and how to avoid those mistakes. I want to emphasize that there are far more than 8 mistakes that can be made inside of any kind of qualified program, and you really got to pay attention to what's going on out there. If you're not qualified to do so, if you don't feel like the people around you are advising you appropriately, there are places like this website to seek out good quality advice. This is a big deal with respects to the qualified money and your future, so making those decisions and making the right ones and avoiding really easy mistakes is really the goal of the course, and hopefully you got something out of it. My name's John Vucicevic, and thanks a lot for joining me today.